Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from round 3 of this year's FIDE World Cup. It's day 2 and it is world champion Gukesh versus Frederik Svane. Game 1 ended in a draw, so this is now the return game, and the world champion has the white pieces. Now, so far we've covered I think 1 or maybe 2 games by Frederik. He's the younger brother of Rasmus Svane, and that's how we usually introduce him. He's the younger brother of Rasmus Svane. Well, no more. Let's see this game. Gukesh with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5, knight f3, we have knight to c6, and the bishop to c4. The Italian game is on the board. We have knight f6 and pawn to d3. I don't know about you guys, but I'm always a little bit sad inside when knight g5 isn't played here, but you know, that's just the fashion today in chess. d3, everyone prefers it. Bishop to c5, we have castles, and pawn to d6. So the standard Giuoco Pianissimo, which we've seen thousands of times. c3, and now pawn to a5. Pawn to a6, a bit more common. Pawn to a5 also very much played. I mean, of course, you have to fight against pawn to b4. Rook to e1 and castles kingside. We have pawn to h3, and now pawn to h6. This is the first real thing of the game. Frederik spent some 10 minutes on this move, maybe 11, and okay, now maybe he's out of preparation, maybe he's still recollecting. We'll see what happens. We have knight bd2, Gukesh still blitzing it out. He has over an hour and 30 minutes on the clock. Bishop back to b6. Okay, some 5 minutes spent. We have pawn to a4. And there is a game, Yanni Pomnici played it against Javokir Sindarov this year in the Chess Cup, and Nepo lost that game. In that game, Sindarov played bishop to d7. But here we have bishop to e6 was played, but here we have bishop to d7, and those two are the top moves recommended by the engine. So, you know, still everything is incredibly precise, and not burning a lot of time. An hour and 13 minutes is okay time to get out of theory. So it is now, as of move 10, that we have a completely new game. We have pawn to b3 and the bishop back to e6, burning 20 more minutes on shifting the bishop back to e6, where it's usually developed. But okay, we have bishop to b2, king to h8, and now, believe it or not, Gukesh spends over half an hour for his next move. And you could play the regular looking rook c1, as you will be pushing d4 at some point. Also knight f1, knight to g3, knight d3, those are all pretty standard ideas. Knight b5, also fighting for the d4 square. That all of that can be played, but rook to a2 is what Gukesh plays. It's an engine move, and everyone was incredibly impressed when Gukesh played it after thinking for so long. Usually when, you know, someone thinks for half an hour, they just blunder the game. But no, Gukesh actually calculates everything, and he plays one of the top engine moves. The idea being, okay, you will move the knight, the rook will be very useful guarding the f2 pawn. Also, you can double up on the e file, you can double up on the d file. So an incredibly versatile move. Okay, we have knight to h5, preparing knight to f4, but also you can play f5, g5, and well, not f5 at the moment, that bishop would hang, but you can if you want. Knight to f1 and knight to f4. Okay, now you already have to worry about maybe some sacrifices occurring on h3, but not right away. We have bishop to c1, and well, you can do it. It doesn't really accomplish all that much. Bishop captures on h6, and okay, knight g5, and there's really nothing there. The queen comes into the game, and you can even blunder on the spot. For example, h captures, queen to h5 with check, then you pick up the bishop, and that's pretty much it. So after bishop to c1, queen to f6 was played, and we have knight to g3. So the question is now, why are you here? Why are you in Goa, India? Did you come to, you know, push some pieces, or did you come to play chess? If you came to push some pieces, okay, then you play something like bishop d7. But if you came to play chess, then pawn to g5. And obviously, Frederik came to play chess here, and Gukesh decides to go knight h2. Preparing knight g4. D4 also can be played as you know, the proper response to a flank attack is to counter your opponent in the center, and d4 preparing d5 is one nice way to do it. But you have to really calculate after pawn to g4, which is a complete mess of a position. Like bishop captures on f4, g captures on f3, bishop back to e3, you have to defend, e captures, c captures. Now you can even go knight captures, even bishop captures, and after bishop captures, knight h5, attacking the queen, and only then will you capture on f3 and defend that knight. For example, queen e5 attacks the knight, queen captures on f3, and everything is fine. Probably d5 and, some sort of an equal game. But yeah, it's perfectly fine for both white and black. However, knight to h2 was played by Gukesh. We have queen g6 and bishop back to e3. This bishop here is an incredible piece, so countering it definitely makes sense, and pawn to d5. Okay, we have e captures, bishop captures on d5, bishop captures on b6, we have c captures, and knight back to f3, putting pressure on the d5 pawn. Rook 8 to d8, nicely aligning the rook with the queen here, and finally Gukesh's rook a2 move becomes very useful. Now rook to d2, putting the rook on the d file. Bishop captures, we have d captures on c4, and now pawn to f6, strengthening the pawn chain. And while you are weakening the black king, if somehow you get the queens off the board, then you have a very strong game. You can easily get that king into the game and play for something. But okay, that's a long way off. And Gukesh goes knight to e4. Believe it or not, the best move here is pawn to b4, as it often is in every position. Point being that you can, just make your position beautiful, and that knight can never move, as the rook on d8 would hang. And even if you trade, then the queen guards the b pawn. So, you have all of the moves ready to be pushed, and not a lot black can do there on the queen side. But instead, Gukesh went knight e4. We have rook captures on d2, queen captures, and rook to d8, queen to e3, and now pawn to f5. Gukesh goes back to g3. We have knight to d3, attacking the rook and preparing pawn to f4, rook d1, and now just pawn to f4, seemingly winning a piece, but not really. Queen to e4, the queen on g6 is undefended, and king to h7. And the problem here is that Gukesh cannot really avoid a queen trade. And we said that, if you get the queens off the board, then the king has a very easy access to the game. And if you try something like knight f5, which, looks flashy, and, you have two knights in front of the black king, maybe something good will happen. Nothing good will happen. You're just going to lose to knight c5, and now you cannot keep an eye on the knight and on the rook on d1. The queen also being attacked, you have to move it, but it doesn't matter. Just rook captures, queen captures, and you're going to be down material. So after king h7, queen captures on g6 was played, and king captures on g6. And while it is equal, black having so many options to push, having an active king, having a knight on d3, just makes it a bit more pleasant to play for black. Plus, also, if you don't play knight e4, you're already lost. So it's not as if you have 15 moves to choose from. Of course, Gukesh plays it. We have king f5 and knight f to d2. Defending the e4 knight, we have knight to c5, offering a trade, and rook to e1. Knight back to d3, attacking the rook, rook to b1. Gukesh now hoping to get that b4 in somehow, but for the moment it is out of the question. Pawn to h5, king to f1. Gukesh starts getting the king into the game, and knight to c5. We have pawn to f3. The knight now nicely defended. The other knight can move, and rook to d3. Frederik activates the rook, puts pressure on c3, and, well, that's just one annoying rook there. Almost a pig. Not quite a pig, but almost a pig. We have king to f2 and pawn to g4. H captures, we have H captures, and here Gukesh has to play rook to h1. It's already move 39. Two more moves need to be played in order to reach time control, but he doesn't play it. Point being that after h1 and after g3 check king e2, your rook is on the h file, and you will be able to put a lot of pressure on the black king, on the black knights, on two pawns. So you will have a reasonable counter chances. However, after rook to e1, you allow a black to trade rooks, and that is accomplished by pawn to g3 check. Now, you can go to f1, but then your rook will really have nothing to do for the rest of the game. So king e2, we have rook to e3 check, king d1, and rook captures on e1, king captures, and now king to e6. And yes, the material is equal, but the problem is the base of the pawn chain for black is this e-pawn, which is defended by the knight and by the king, and there's really no hope of you ever reaching it. And this pawn here, well, how are you ever reaching that pawn? It's very unlikely that you're going to put a knight on d5 or on c4. There's a pawn on c4. So here, king to d1, we have knight to e7. And king to e2. Okay, Gukesh just waiting to see what happens. knight to f5, and here knight to g5 check. We have king to e7, knight g back to e4, and king back to e6. We have knight g5 check. I think Gukesh dreaming of a repetition here, but Frederik says, nope, not today. King to f6, we have knight g to e4 with check, king e7, and now Gukesh trades on c5. Knight captures on c5, b captures, and knight to e4, putting pressure on c5, but pawn to b6. And yeah, very, very tough position for Gukesh to handle. So many weaknesses, not a thing that he can hone in on. There's no way to put a knight on d5, which would give you something. But yeah, there's no way to get the king into the game. You can never execute pawn to b4. So yeah, I mean, you just you have to do it as soon as you can in the game, because in the end you might not be able to. And here with king to f1, maybe you can still hope for a mistake from black, at best. But after king to d3, the position is now completely winning, and I'm pretty sure you guys already see it, but just in case you don't, feel free to pause the video and win a game against the world champion while I give you a couple of seconds. Yes, Frederik Svane found it, as did you guys. He played knight h4, and the g2 pawn cannot be defended. Gukesh played it just so the knight leaves and he can execute pawn to b4, but it is far too late for such things. He goes pawn b4, knight captures, we have b captures, sorry, b captures on c5, b captures, knight captures on c5. He creates a pass c pawn, but now knight to e3, ready to go g2, g1. So king to e2, and now look at this. Knight captures on c4, and he was in this position on move 55 that world classical champion Gukesh Dommaraju resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. King to f1, while you can play it, it doesn't really do all that much. You can just play king to d6, and after, let's say, knight d3, because you don't have anything to do here. The knight cannot be attacked, obviously, with a knight. Everyone knows that. You're covering a5, you're covering e5, so you cannot touch any of the two pawns. Other than that, you can't move the king, otherwise the pawn queens. And if you just try to move the knight back and forth, then a simple knight e3 check, let's say king e2, and knight to d1 just wins on the spot, because now you either win the pawn, or the pawn moves and then g2. The knight covers f2, the pawn covers f1. There's no way to get the king closer, and the g pawn queens. So yeah, brilliant stuff by Frederik. Hard to say what went wrong here for Gukesh. I mean, it's the perfect setup. You have the white pieces. It's game 2. You only need a win or a draw, to force tie breaks. You are the world champion, so tie breaks should not be a problem for you. Winning with white or drawing with white also. But he just burned so much time, spent over half an hour on that rook to a2 move, which is a beautiful engine move. It's just that, later on, Frederik just found how to trade queens, and he had a superior position, and he just took Gukesh down. So it was just a magnificent display of how not to be afraid and how to take up on any challenge, and, just win a classical game against the world champion with black. Brilliant stuff from Frederik. Very much looking forward to what he does. And, I mean, there are so many surprises, so many incredible stuff happening. There's some more. I don't want to disclose it. Maybe some of you guys are not following as vividly, but we will discuss all of the results, and we will cover all of the pairings of round 4. So, worry not. But yeah, beautiful stuff by Frederik. Very much looking forward to what he does next. Tough break for Gukesh, as it's played in India. Definitely, hurts for him, probably. But yeah, what do you want to do? You have to, everyone is so incredibly prepared. Everyone plays well. Everyone, wants to play well. And it's not maybe like 20 years ago when you faced the world champion, you just froze and they just, did whatever they want. Now everyone plays, and they don't care who you are. But yeah, incredible stuff. Like I said, if you still haven't joined the Elite Chess Arena, the November Lotus Chess Arena, we're going to run it on Monday. It's going to be awesome as usual. Hope you guys can come and, win some great games. We're going to feature them. And yeah, all in all, just enjoy ourselves. If you have any questions for the team, for me, if you want to talk about movies, philosophy, science, anything goes, we're going to have a good time as usual. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Francisco Santana, Deepak Gangadaran, Udo Brandt, Leo Terunet Loomis, and Eddie Sphere for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.